37 weeks to Madiera. Find it difficult to use both hands. Welcome back to the video diary and a really positive update this week. So competition update from last night, pole vault update from tonight, hurdles update from tonight, and goal setting for the next 3 months. So first of all, last night I went down to Newham in the east of London and ran the 60. Obviously I was trying to meet this Masters standard of 7.8 and I was successful right off the gun with a 7.74. Just really positive experience. I got down there quite late because work finished late as well. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to warm up in time for the first round of heats, but they kind of slotted me in the very last heat and I got a half decent warm up, and I don't know what it was. It was just the rest for the week before that I'd actually taken days off to rest beforehand, but I just felt fast, even though I'd done a full day's work and driven for 2 hours in the car. And yeah, again, maybe just being in a heat with other people where I was clearly faster than them just gave me a bit of a confidence boost. And so yeah, that's us. We've met that goal. That was the plan, to get through without any injuries on those two standards. We've done it. A bit of perseverance has been all that was needed. Yeah, really nice to go and do just a new meet somewhere else. It's good to go back over old ground, but it's also just good to do something new. Yeah, I'd stayed on for a second race and ran 7.73, so I was thinking, I'm feeling really good. Maybe I can kind of push the envelope a bit and get down back towards where I was when I started athletics, down at 7.6. But whether that was all I had in me or by that point it was just quite late in the evening and I was tired, I didn't manage to improve it by more than 1/100 of a second. Interestingly, I got a bad start for the second one and I managed to claw myself up the field to there was one guy that was way ahead of everyone else. I think he was in the wrong heat, but just to win in front of the others. And I know that doesn't count for a huge deal at this stage, but it was just sheer bloody minded competitiveness and it just showed me that I can, when my blood's up, really perform well or recover even within a race. So that was really good. So that's one tick in the goals. The next one is of course the triathlon, which I completed tonight. So I still had a second pole vault session I needed to do and a hurdles session. Only one hurdles because I've done hurdles before. Pole vault went well. First time jumping into the mat. The vault coach said bring a spare pair of clothes, because essentially they've got this big soft mat that's a big sponge, and even though it hasn't rained here for a while, the whole thing's completely wet and there's like frost forming on the track here. So it was, yeah, just kind of vaulting into this ice bath. So so that was good. Just again, the decathlon, the big hiccup for me thinking about it was I don't think I could vault. I don't think I could actually do that. It's just so technical and it just wasn't. I was able to do it. It wasn't very high. It was 2 meters 15. Initially, when you put the wee band up across the slope, it's not an actual bar. It's actually like a bungee rope that they used first. I was like, I don't think I can clear that, and she was like, no, you can. If you really want, I'll put it down, but I think you can clear it. And then when I actually went and vaulted it, I was like, that was way too low. So I put it up to 215, and even then there was a chunk of daylight there. I could have gone even higher. So it's good to just be able to put a wee thing in my triathlon, just get a baseline heptathlon time, baseline heptathlon score across all the events. This isn't in competition. You need to be able to replicate that in competition, but it just gives you a feel for what I know I'm capable of, and progression potential within that. So that was good. I still had the hurdles. The actual hurdle session was happening at the same time as the pole vault, so this is a classic problem with scheduling these things. So I just did a hurdle session by myself and went through some of the drills that I knew from 3 years ago, and got Coach Dennis just to watch me through some stuff. And yeah, I just built up to the so not the full high hurdles, so the ladies heights and the ladies distance for a 60, and I managed to build up to that and run a 60 without hurting a hurdle. So not full height, but the bar is actually really high for the men's high sprint hurdles. Sometimes called the sprint hurdles, sometimes called the high hurdles, because the 400's slightly lower, the women's is slightly lower, the masters is slightly lower, the juniors is slightly lower, but it's just that combination of being a mature adult guy that you have the highest height, and yeah, it's just it's a tall order, literally. So hurdles, a bit of a love-hate relationship with it, but I've always actually really liked it. I've just found it really hard, and there's a big question mark over. In some ways, there's still a question mark, despite the fact I've not been focusing on it, whether that might even be my best event. I know that I know that I've done the hurdles, the high hurdles before, when I took 3 strides in between the hurdles, which is kind of like stuttering in between them and not doing it properly. And with a wind that was just outside the Masters standard anyway, so it just shows you if you can actually complete the hurdles, you're in the mix, you're up there. So if I can actually complete it with just 2 strides, like the normal strides that you're supposed to do, then it'd easily be benchmarking alongside the others, and that's particularly important in the heptathlon or the decathlon, where you need to be able to get a good score across all events. So that's there as well, and I really need to think about that going forward into the next 3 months. If I'm doing the decathlon, then the hurdles is going to require a disproportionate amount of training, perhaps, in order to actually be able to complete it without crashing and getting disqualified, or if I don't complete it. But if I can actually do well in it, then there's potential there. One of the tricky things with the hurdles is that it's relatively underfilled at championships, so I might be able to get into championships easier, but to actually progress within that, the standard at the higher level is just as high as the rest of the events. There's just less people doing it, so it might be a kind of false friend in that I think, all right, I can be in the top 100 in the UK, but actually you're still miles off being able to actually meet my goal of being selected to compete at a national level or something like that. So that was hurdles. So that job's completed. The third goal was obviously to complete the Big Man on Campus, or 6 weeks of. So I have one more back and biceps workout. I don't know how I'm going to do that tomorrow, because I've got no I've not got gym access until later, and I've got a date night later. So we're going to have to see if I can get out of theatre early and try and find a local gym and try and do that at like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And I've still got a couple of kind of abs and calves things to catch up from that. And also I've got the option of doing 1 or 2 of the recovery workouts, which I think, strictly speaking, I'd like to do to really complete the full 6 weeks, even though that wasn't part of it, because I've only done half of that trainer. But again, essentially on point or thereabouts. So we've completed our goals for the first 3 months. I'm in a completely different place psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and obviously physically than I was 3 months ago. Several of the roadblocks were actually psychological, and even social, just the social aspect of it. I was talking to a girl who's a triple jumper medical student, and I was saying, like, are you sure you shouldn't be competing at the British Championships? And she was just saying it's just so big and overwhelming, and there's so many people in the sprints, and they're all so anxious and everything. And I was like, yeah, I totally get it. That was how I was a couple of weeks ago at Lee Valley, and but it's also just important to identify that's there. So going forward for the next 3 months, I've written down my goals, and they are, first of all, to meet the NCAA, so the American Universities Division 3 roster standard for any event. So that's my main goal. If that's going to be in the sprints, that's under 24 seconds. In the 200, that's 11.4. In the 100 meters, quite tall orders. A bit like, I think like 7 seconds or so, or 7.3 in the 60. So really hitting PBs in there, or completing the hurdles that might get me the hurdle standard, or decathlon as well. So I'm going to be still investing 50-50 in the sprints and decathlon. Spoke to Coach Dennis tonight. I was saying, could I potentially look back and regret it if I'm only devoting half of my time to the sprints at this point, and I could be saying, right, let's get 9 months of sprint training in ahead of October, versus the deficit of still generalising just now. And he says he thinks the training for the decathlon is transferable to the sprints. He says that I've got a good base under me just now as well. So how are we going to train things? So we're going to be doing a 4-week strength program, powerlifting program. The first 4 weeks of the PH3 program by Lane Norton. So this is an advanced powerlifting program that he says if you're not advanced enough to do this program, then you can do a modified version of the first 4 weeks instead. And that's for people who have a Wilks coefficient of under 300. So that's how much you can lift of the big 3 lifts compared to your body weight. And my Wilks coefficient isn't 300, it's kind of 200, 250, something like that. So that's a very clear goal. My weight has come down slightly to 90 kilograms. That was another kind of auxiliary goal for this 3 months. So I'll be focusing on doing that. There's 5 workouts a week for 4 weeks, so that's 20 workouts. So unlike the 30 I was doing in the last one, I'm going to be doing 20 strength workouts, and that's going to allow me to focus a bit more on the sprints, but also that these workouts are just, I think they're just a bit tougher as well. So I'll be doing two and a half strength sessions a week, and then I'll be doing 1.5 to 2 athletic sessions. And again, I'm going to have to be doing a session of like ankle and hip mobility and things, especially if I want to compete in the hurdles. So that's the second goal, would be to achieve a Wilks coefficient of 300. That's like a benchmark of strength, similar to the 1,000-pound club, being able to lift 1,000 pounds across your bench, press, deadlift, and squat. And the other thing is that so the NFL Combine's coming up. So that's the American University's football kind of Olympic or trial, where they assess their speed and endurance across a bunch of tests and things, and the athletes for that would train for 8 weeks on their speed, and there's a lot of good 8-week kind of programs out there for training for the NFL Combine. So I'm going to do 8 sprint sessions as well, across the next 12 weeks. So that's going to be including maybe some weeks away. I'm going to be hot week and on call in the hospital as well. So I'm going to do 8 weeks of 8 decathlon sessions, 8 sprint sessions, and alongside that I'm going to try and do another 8 kind of mini decathlon sessions where I just turn up half an hour early and do some high jump or something like that. So not a lot of time to upskill in the decathlon, just enough to get me to get some legal jumps and throws and times in. I've already got some competitions in the offing, and it's starting to take shape. In terms of rewards, I'm going to buy myself some new spikes. I'm also going to buy myself a kind of American, a kind of black and white American flag vest that Steve Cook wears in the Big Man on Campus videos. Is a kind of winning the T-shirt of the Big Man on Campus, and I'm also getting a new jacket and some new clothes to kind of celebrate and yeah, this weekend I'm going to just have a chill one because I'm in the hospital. Next week I'm going to be having to test my PRs, my 1 rep max, and the big 3 lifts to work out my current 1 rep max, so I can calculate percentages and calculate my current Wilks coefficient to see where we're starting, where we're going. So an update on that next week, maybe before or after that. So see you next week.